I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Edgewood Planning and Zoning Commission, May 14th, 2019. It's currently 6:30 PM. So we'll start with roll call. Commissioner Fox,
Present.
Commissioner Herrera,
Present.
Commissioner Huppertz,
Present.
Commissioner Turner,
Present.
and Commissioner Felton's here. The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. So if you guys would look it over, I know we had a little back and forth of getting our hands on the packets and stuff, so if people haven't had enough to look at it.
Yeah, I apologize
That's
for
okay,
that.
don't worry about it. It's, a pretty light agenda anyway, so
Yeah.
take a quick look at it, you guys, and whenever you're ready, I'll entertain either suggestions for changes or a motion to go ahead and approve it.
I do have a suggestion.
Mhm.
It says next meeting, P and Z is 5:25, but it's actually 5:28.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Ooh, good catch.
Saturday.
Because, I'll be out of town.
How'd that happen? Why are we still?
Okay, so we can make that change.
You should get something.
Right.
I should have little stickers or
prize.
something.
I could get a chart. We could have a chart, a star chart.
With little stars?
Yes. And every time you catch me on something, then after 5, you get a prize.
Yeah, get 10 stars and you get Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other changes? Otherwise, a motion to approve?
I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the minutes. The draft Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes for April 23rd. And these are kind of lengthy. We had 2 public hearings, 2 hearings on subdivisions. I've read them through a couple of times. But you guys let me know what you think might need to be modified before we go ahead and approve those.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Turner.
on page 2, second paragraph, says she added that there were abutters that called asking. I would suggest changing that to say, instead of abutters, that there were owners of abutting properties who called. Because people are not abutters, property is. Right. And it's a good shorthand in the office, but let's lose it in the minutes and findings. Let's not use that word.
Okay.
And people would be who? Called. But the minutes were excellent, Tanya. It's good narrative. Yes, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it reflects what went on. They were both fairly lengthy,
Yeah.
a lot to try and capture. Any other corrections, you guys?
I didn't.
See any?
do you think? Can we approve the minutes?
We approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item, item 4, is an action item, findings of fact and conclusions of law. Do you need me to read this into the record, Tanya?
No, you can if you would like. It's just,
I think I'll take the piece that's off the agenda so we know what's what on the audio. So item 4 is an action item, findings of fact and conclusions of law. This relates to the application of Donovan and Josie Bassett for a subdivision of 2 acres into 3 lots. I won't go through all the enumeration of the tracts. So this is, we found in favor of this subdivision. And basically what we're saying here is that this is consistent with Edgewood ordinances and our own procedures. So we can go ahead. Do we roll call vote on this one?
you don't have to.
No? Okay. So just a simple vote will be sufficient. So a motion and a second to approve this findings of fact. If it looks solid to you, it looks to me like what went on.
I'll move that the findings of fact.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is very similar. Item 5 is an action item. Findings of fact, conclusions of law. This was the subdivision hearing related to an application by Jared Gallegos for a subdivision of 5 acres into 2 lots. This is, again, a section that's also known as 6 Windsong Lane, this property. And this is one that we also went ahead and approved. We found it to be consistent with ordinances, no reason to deny it. So if you guys are in favor of accepting this as is, go ahead and make a motion.
I move that we accept the facts and finding for Jared Gallegos subdivision.
Is there a second?
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Boy, we're buzzing right along, huh?
Yeah.
We are.
So that takes us to the item that could consume the rest of the evening. The next 2 are discussion items. Item 6 is a discussion item, again, related to the industrial zone that we're trying to hammer out wording for. You have it in your packet.
Did you guys get, I'm sorry, did you get the red line version? It doesn't look like,
No.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's got cross out in it. We were going to
Yeah.
take that out, is that correct?
Yeah, I've got it up here. We can, I guess, look up there. I'm sorry, Commissioner Felton. I just realized that mine wasn't red, so.
I've got red line in the email you sent me.
I've got the 7, 8, 9. I think that's what was new from the
Yeah, so there's
last.
the purpose, that is new. I had, since I was out, I had Michelle listen to the minutes and put in what we discussed. So the purpose, that one purpose that we looked at from Artesia, I believe. That's what we added in here, and then reviewed by the TAC team.
Right, we did add that.
Mm-hmm. And then some of these other strikeouts are older,
Yeah.
stuff that we had taken out a few weeks ago.
And let's see.
And then under general requirements,
Yeah, here we go.
put review by technical advisory committee, number 4?
Yes.
Yeah, what I have doesn't even look close to that.
I just wrote them down on my last month's paper.
Oh, that's conditional uses.
Yeah.
See what 3
So-
shows there? I don't think mine is matching. Oh, yeah, it does.
Okay, it does, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so general requirements number 4, plan review.
So the new part is number 4 under number
F.
F. Okay, ours is just not red.
Yeah.
I've got a question on that very first paragraph where you
Yes.
added in there
Mhm.
that's kind of unique to Edgewood. It's got activities conducted in a manner not detrimental to the rest of the community by reason of the emission or creation of noise, vibration, smoke, dust, particulate matter. Since we have a kind of a limited sewage treatment plant, should we have something in there for somebody that wants to dump chemicals into the sewage system or
Right.
excessive amounts of sewage, or
Um,
would that,
We could either put it there, or we could put it under general requirements to where, because we do have on number 6 listed a chemical list,
Mhm.
and we can put a little blurb in there that says, that will need to be reviewed by
yeah,
the wastewater treatment
Yes.
perfect.
director?
Yeah, that'd
Okay.
be good.
So we'll add that on number 6.
Well, then
At what point in the process would you have them doing that, reviewing that? When they first come in?
At, probably at plan review.
Okay.
So part of the TAC committee, we could have Mike Butler in on it, where he could, and they would have to come in with their chemical list and how much they, would be dumping into the system.
This is at the point that they apply for conditional use.
Right, before they even get here.
What about permissive uses? Do any of those permissive uses need to be reviewed for that?
Distilleries and breweries.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's under
That's
conditional.
That's
conditional.
conditional.
I think he said everything that we had under permissive
Wasn't concerned.
was not a concern.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all kind of small, office equipment or wholesalers, distributors. Probably the only one that really has impact on water potentially is nurseries and greenhouses. And I blame myself. I think I put that one on the list. So if it's a problem for the wastewater system, we can always move it to conditional.
Yeah.
seemed like we need to have some explanation by that chemical list, like what about it?
Right.
Is,
Right.
Just
like it needs to
floating
be,
out
we might say no to a certain business if it's, they want to dump
Was
too
that
many
like a
chemicals.
placeholder?
Well, underneath it, we have pre-treatments or other precautionary measures.
Right.
So pre-treatment system. I mean, it would have to be something that Mike could look at and say, yeah, none of this can touch our, our plant, or you would have to treat it. Or what they did in Bernalillo, the big Bosque brewery that went in, they had to pay the town of Bernalillo a certain amount of money to upgrade their facility in order to be able to handle their waste that went through. So it's something like that that you could also look at if they really want to open up something that is going to hurt the plant. That's another
They
thing
can
that
help,
we could.
help have a pre-treatment.
Yes.
So chemical list as it stands now, is that a placeholder that we're supposed to play with?
It could be.
I mean, that's one option.
So I just added like chemical list, a list of chemicals to be reviewed by the wastewater treatment director
I think
at,
your sewer ordinance would give them list of stuff already.
yeah,
Okay.
Upon application?
yeah,
Yeah.
upon application, yeah.
I don't think it needs to be very long or detailed,
No.
just,
Well, then you could just put a dash, see the
Right,
wastewater
by
ordinance.
reference. Yeah. Just reference the sewer treatment ordinance.
Right.
And then it ends with follow all applicable town of Edgewood ordinances.
Yeah. Everything else was the same, except number 7, that's a new one.
And it does address it on there, too.
Yeah. So guys, I don't know what else we could put in here. I'm kind of loving it. I think that it's,
I think it's time to go ahead and
I
try
think
to-
so too. I think we can vote on it next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay,
I think it's ready.
send it on through and see what happens.
At the council meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you should.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Turner.
Did you get a chance to talk to any other?
I didn't get a
reps?
chance.
I know it was a crazy busy
It was.
conference, but very helpful, so.
Yes, it was. I really liked it.
I think this is probably ready to go. I think it's short,
Yeah.
sweet, and to the point.
Yep.
So maybe let's do something with chemical list, like just say, refer to
Yeah.
the wastewater treatment ordinance for that list, and then we can vote on it next meeting.
Yep. Okay. Good work, guys.
Oh, thank you. You did all the work.
Tossed this around a pretty long time now.
Yeah, I know it.
And if
But
we went
I-
at this much longer, we'd start revising back to what we
Yeah,
started
I
with.
think so
Right.
too. We're
We
gonna
don't
start
wanna do that.
rethinking
I
everything.
mean, we may think of something later on, but we can always
Right.
amend it, so
Yeah.
we can get this in place.
Well, we'll get it going, and then if we realize that it should read some other way, or we should add something, we can always take it down for revision at
Yeah.
that point. But it would be good to get it out there and see if we can attract some interest.
Mhm. I think so too.
Will the next point be to zone an area for this?
Yes.
Have you had any inquiries
No,
yet?
not from those owners, no, we haven't. But yeah, as soon as we get this in place, then we'll reach out to them and see if we could have a visit.
Yeah? We've got what they want, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Should we move on then to the next item?
I got one.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
question that, on the general requirements, F, number 4, plan review by the Technical Advisory Committee. Do we have one of those?
We do, and it's written in our subdivision ordinance. So who we have on that TAC committee, I mean, it could be anybody. We can invite anybody that we think we need there.
Oh,
But for
okay.
subdivision, there's myself, it was Michelle, Renee Nix from Santa Fe County Fire, and Norton Hinninger from the Road Department.
Okay, so it's not a set committee, it's who you
Whoever-
need
Who you need, yeah,
that could help out on that situation. Okay,
yes.
thank you.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing it next meeting.
Yeah, excited.
Exciting. So item 7, moving along, is also a discussion item. The NMLZO conference that was in Albuquerque, last week?
Yes.
So go ahead and take us out on that one.
First, second, and third. So I just thought maybe we could discuss what you guys learned, what you wanted to implement. The mayor came to see what we have to say about that. I think my takeaway from it, when we recommend something to town council, we need to have a resolution of recommendation, so there's a record of it. So I would like to start implementing that.
Would this be like a finding of fact, but less formal, or?
It would be more like take for instance, when we do the road surfacing document. That's a recommendation, so it would be a resolution.
Okay.
But, so just so that there's a record that we sent something up. I mean, there's always the minutes, but I think a resolution of recommendation, I really like that Gallup did that. And I thought that that's just a good way of keeping a record of, we could go back and how many, resolution of recommendations did we do in 2019 or whatever. I think it's kind of cool, so,
Yeah, things don't fall through the cracks
Right.
that way.
Right, minutes don't always have the pertinent details.
right.
And it would be in the format of like, whereas, therefore?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to try it with this industrial zone?
I am.
All right.
And everything else that we've changed along the way that we're taking all at one time.
Yeah, how much are we taking to the meeting this
Oh,
next
I
time?
have to go back and
Yeah, that's what I
look,
was
but
thinking.
I think there's I want to say
I want
there's
us to be
4
reviewed
things.
and ready for that, I was just thinking.
Yeah, it's going to be the P and Z show for sure when we do go, because we're going to have a lot.
When is that?
Well, if we pass this, then it'll probably be the last meeting in June that we can get on.
Oh, goody. I won't have classroom duties at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe I can actually come be part of that whole show. All right. What else about the conference?
What did
Did
you
you
guys
steal
have
good
anything?
handouts?
Here, I would like to
Yeah.
hear what you all thought of it, those of you that bothered to attend.
I was forcing 140 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders to do chemistry and physics they didn't want to do. I would much rather have been at the conference. Trust me. I don't know how many times they said, "Get off your phones, get off your phones."
No, I really like the way they put the packet together, explaining, about variances and setbacks. I mean, just all the wording, it's all in here that I can kind of refer to, and we could make copies. I took notes, and the thing she brought up about variances, I had to have my mind joggled.
Yeah.
That was really helpful to share with the two that didn't get to go, because I didn't really have a full understanding what a variance was, and what they said is it really is about the land.
Right.
It's not about what those people are doing at that time. And they gave an example of a house built by an arroyo, and they couldn't get the setback, so they gave them variance to build closer to that arroyo. But it was because of the land, the way the land was laid out. So it had nothing to do about the people. It was really about how the land was. And then that's what a variance should be, where non-conforming was they're not conforming to the ordinance, and you're giving them some exception to non-conform for a certain period of time or something like that. That's what I understood anyway, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was really helpful, because I didn't really have a clear understanding. I don't know if we've even talked about non-conforming here.
We haven't
Or if
needed
it's
to.
in, is it in our, if it's even in our ordinance, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a non-conformance.
It
So
probably
another
doesn't
thing
come up
about
much.
variances is a lot of people that know about them think that they can use it as well as a financial, because it's called, if they say it's a hardship, but it's a hardship because of the land. A lot of people think hardship means it's a financial thing, and it's not. And like, I had a guy come in that is doing a sign permit after the fact. And I told him, I said, that sign's pretty big. And he said, well, if it's too big, I'll just get a variance. No,
Doesn't work
no,
that
you
way.
won't.
Right, wrong definition.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
should be
So-
rare.
It was
Right.
really good to
Very,
clear
very
that
rare.
up, because I didn't realize that it was about the land.
Yeah,
Right. That's a
And
good
it's-
summary.
It's hard that it's never changed.
Right.
Like it's,
Oh, yeah.
It goes with the land.
And it goes with the
Goes with
land.
the
They
land.
sell
Yeah.
it, it goes
Right.
with the land.
yeah, exactly. There's no way to fix it.
And then I think we've learned a little bit on quasi-judicial hearings, but I can't remember exactly what we learned on that. It seemed like there was something that's a little different. Maybe you remember?
Well, one thing that I thought has some impact on the way we do our hearings is that they have 3 categories for people giving testimony: proponents, opponents, who generally, if I understood Mr. Van Black correctly, are the people withstanding parties to the application. And then they have a 3rd category for the general public. And I think that's good, because in the past, and I've been on the other side of the table when there were only proponents and opponents, and if you were there just having questions or wanted to make a comment, that you weren't taking a position either way, it was shoehorning in, and so I think that's helpful.
Interested people.
Exactly. But I think what it refined, it seems like a more detailed coverage than I remember at the last training session we went to on that subject, because what Battershaw turned on was the fact that some of the parties were not given the chance to cross-examine, and that's why Albuquerque lost the suit, was because they had a misstep there. So I think that it would be good for whoever's presiding at the meeting to maybe have a list of people who are entitled to notification So that,
Okay.
If you want to break it down like that, you've got
Right.
the people you send out notifications to are the parties. You got the applicant and then whoever within the 500 feet or whatever,
Yeah.
they're parties. Then on the night of your hearing, you gotta see who's there of them people. Obviously, the applicant will be there. And then, when it comes to time to do it, then your chair needs a new,
A new script?
well, you know, we made this up. Haven't seen any amendments to it in years. Y'all need to think about that script in here.
how many of the current commissioners have a copy?
I don't have a copy of that.
What is that?
No, and I've got those things, and I have two things, and I've kind of stitched them together and added some of my own, so it flows in a way that it works. Otherwise, I'm skipping back and forth between somewhat contradictory documents. So maybe it's a good time for a revision,
Yeah.
to just
Right, and
take it from top to bottom.
it should be, and I would like to add that that was the original intent, that it would be revisited regularly as things changed. And there has been a lot of water under the bridge since the was first written.
The way we called it out then, you know, we had applicants, proponents, and opponents. I think you keep them.
Mhm.
But the distinguishing thing that what we heard would be the delineating who's an applicant, I mean, a party, from just who's interested people. With the key difference being, the interested people can't cross-examine. They can
Right.
be cross-examined,
Correct,
but they
right.
can't cross-examine.
Only the people who have standing are the
The
ones.
parties
They
to,
can do the
Yeah,
cross-examine.
that makes sense.
So those would be the people within 500 feet. So somebody that lives across town that's just interested
Right.
can't
They're
cross-examine.
interested people. They can give you direct testimony.
they can talk about the comp plan, how it might
They can
affect
talk
them.
about the issue at hand.
Yeah, the
Right.
general quality of the town, how they would like to see it develop. You know, we've had some of those
Well,
things.
Right.
You got somebody with a subdivision, I guess they could speak to that too.
Yeah,
Well, and I think, I don't have the exact reference, but I believe there is case law in New Mexico where judges have ruled that in like subdivision applications, people who simply are driving through have standing to put their opinion in if it affects the quality or the time of their commuting. So they have actually accepted testimony from people who didn't even live in the community but drove through. I think this was up north. So,
And
Or you just sort of keep it like it is with the general, let any Tom, Dick, or Harry that comes in, give you their 2 cents.
well,
It
and
depends how you want to look at it.
well, in a simple hearing, I don't think that would be a problem, but if you've got,
You want to develop that muscle memory.
yeah, because when you have lots of lawyers in the room, you better. do it right.
you know, you open yourself up to appeals and accusations that your decisions may have been based on that testimony from people who really didn't have an interest in the case. You have to be very careful.
Yeah, but Randy made it pretty plain that interested people can speak to the matter.
Yeah,
Their biggest thing is they just can't sit there and cross-examine the parties.
and what may play into this, what goes along with it, is we have to be really careful to make sure we don't fall into giving testimony.
Right.
That is another thing. he
That does
mentioned.
happen from time to time,
Yes, it does.
where someone who's commenting on a proposed subdivision ventures a broad opinion, and then commissioners or members of the council or whoever fall into that mindset. And you have to be, you know, your response should be something like, thank you. Like,
Correct.
keep it very, very
Actually, it's a
minimal.
job for the chair to kind
Yeah.
of remind them they're not there to testify.
Yeah,
Well, Mr. Van Vleck was even more severe on that. He
Mm.
said you really shouldn't be interacting at all
Mm.
and not helping.
Don't give them recommendations.
Yes, don't help
Think I've been
the
guilty.
applicants. Because that can be seen as bias, even though it's
Right.
well-intentioned.
Right.
So, yeah.
For me, one of the things I liked was the idea on the appeal of an appeal of record to council.
Yes. Rather than a de novo?
Maybe on the variance.
Okay. You want to go into that a little more detail?
Well, under the
Of why?
current system, there's two paragraphs in the ordinance that speak to appeals. One's at the variance, and then one's at the end of the thing covering, I guess, all general appeals. The one around variance does call for de novo. And it goes up to the council, and they do a whole brand new, like it never happened before down here. He suggested the best way for us on pretty much everything is just an appeal of record. So it comes up, and you don't have a public hearing or a quasi judicial. You have oral arguments from the people making the appeal, perhaps an oral argument from the opposition. You discuss it, and then you make your decision at the council level without having to go through a whole nother dog and pony show.
Isn't that what happened on our, the blasting ordinance? We kind of reheard, it was reheard again in council?
Well, that's
Or
legislative, it's going to
was
get
more like-
reheard anyway up there, because they're the ones got to make the decision on it.
Okay.
So when you're talking about an appeal of the record, then the council would then make a decision based on what was in the record that P and Z did, why they did it,
Mhm.
and then additional arguments from the appellant.
No, not an argument, so much as an explanation why they think the appeal
Why they,
should be granted.
okay.
So,
If they're
yeah.
appealing to deny it, it should be denied because. I mean, in other words, essentially, if you guys denied something, they'd want an appeal and say it should be approved,
So basically, the evidence that council is considering at that point
is the record.
is the record from town council and sort of the opening argument from the appellant, where they're saying, here's why we've brought this appeal forward.
It's not quasi-judicial.
Right, but what the council's going to look at as evidence is what was already gathered
Like in
here.
the appellate court, then you look for something that the lower court
That-
did
A
wrong.
mistake, that's right.
If there's nothing in the record that demonstrates you all did something
Right.
wrong.
An appeal is not granted just on the basis of, I didn't like the outcome.
Right, so you'd bring forth the minutes and the findings of fact, conclusions of law,
if you
and
have
then
any
the appeal.
exhibits or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. So the evidence is what was already gathered here. They don't gather,
That's what he said. You
yeah.
have the record is here.
That makes
status
sense.
here.
yeah.
That stuff's brought up, but we don't go through a public hearing quasi judicially, so it's just an action item.
Right.
Oral arguments.
Has that happened, where in council it's been another hearing? Has that happened?
Most of the
Pillars.
time.
Most of the time, that's the way it's done.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
pillars
doesn't
was a
seem
whole
like
other
We
it.
one.
haven't defined that enough. Like I say, under the section for variances, it does call out in there for de novo on a variance appeal. Randy even suggested on variances that they be done just at the council level. Because a variance is granting the applicant permission to break your law. And that's what a variance is.
So would you recommend changing variances for the
No,
commission to review and
I'm
recommend?
pretty comfortable with it here because you guys do a better job of fact-finding and give them a better hearing than we can. But I'd like to look at changing that on the appeal and that verbiage in there. And
Mhm.
Randy Audio said he's got some language we can consider for it.
Okay,
Well,
Of course, I'd want to start with you guys and have you review it.
Yeah.
right. What about subdivision appeals?
Yeah,
What's-
especially something like that would be
Be,
ideal for that.
okay. What is the current state of the language?
I don't got it in front of me, but it's
Yeah, I don't have mine
basically to
either.
appeal it. You got it gives the 15 days or whatever,
Right.
and then says also if they want to appeal a council decision, they take to district court. So there's not much in there about the specifics of how it's done, and his
Right.
language would openly state it in there that it's an appeal of record
Yeah,
to the council.
yeah.
Because that's basically what the district court would get. District court, I think, is going to give them a...
Not de novo
No,
in district
they're
court.
not going to rehear the matter, they're going to look at the record. That's why
Yeah.
I always tell you guys, work on the facts, findings of fact and stuff like that. That's the record they're going to look at.
Mhm.
And so essentially, we would be following in line with that. We would treat it the same way the district court would.
Makes
That
sense.
makes all the fact finding and the effort they put on in front of you guys that much more important. They got to get it right here, because all we're going to look at is the record.
So the council wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel for
Right.
everyone.
And
That
for
makes
your
sense.
applicant, they don't got to put on two shows.
Right, they don't have to do, they wouldn't have to advertise public hearing, right, if it's an action
Right.
item?
This may be a delicate question, but what if the council still wants to reinvent the wheel?
I know. That's a bridge we'll have to cross when we get to it.
Okay.
Well, would we write up a resolution that this is how it's going to work, or how would we get that, where it's
Just
a
propose
process?
language for changing it, that appeal
To
section.
the ordinance, yeah.
Oh, the bill check in the ordinance,
Yeah, they're in the appeal section.
Yep,
but just-
the appeal
Okay.
section of the
of
ordinance.
each ordinance,
And
subdivision
he
and
said he's
zoning.
got some language for me to look at that would say how to do it. Apparently, that's the more popular way most places do it.
Makes
How many
sense.
ordinances would have to be changed? Sign.
Subdivision, zoning,
Sign,
Sign,
landscaping,
they got appeal in there.
grading,
Um,
and
The old trick on that
Drainage.
is, anything you guys do can be appealed,
right.
right.
anything.
Is there-
I wonder
It seemed
if,
like a smarter way of doing it.
I wonder if there's a way to do it by reference too, if there's a way to simplify it. If it ends up being something that applies to like 8 or 9 ordinances.
Yeah.
In some of those, you may be able to say, refer to the appeals procedure that's in a given ordinance, instead of rewriting it over.
We could just take all of here's the language that we're gonna put in all of these ordinances.
I guess.
Yeah,
And then but then what you have to do is if you ever change it, you got to do what we're doing right now, going, no, wait, is it in
yeah,
the drainage ordinance?
yeah,
You got to have a master somewhere where you know which ones you dropped it into.
right.
Well, and if you change the master, then you have to change all of the subordinate ordinances. What I would suggest is that the zoning ordinance is the preeminent land use ordinance.
Right.
It's sort of the umbrella. And so I would suggest putting it in the zoning ordinance, and then all of the subordinate land use ordinances then refer to that
If that's
section.
allowable, I would ask,
Right.
I'd ask Randy that,
It's a lot of use.
if he thinks that's adequate, or does it need to be,
Be
You know, if
repeated.
it's good language, just put it in at least to know them to, and maybe the sign.
yeah.
So, yeah, I would recommend you guys get a copy of this and consider amending on that public hearing protocol. The other thing, I asked council there at the last meeting, was to consider a date out in June or July there for a parliamentary training with us, do a double with the council and get the parliamentarian out here. He said he's available. Kind of look at your calendar, when you meet. See on here, you've got your next meeting, 25th.
28th.
Typo.
Yeah. We're on it. We got that
We
fixed.
changed that.
We fixed it.
Well, anyway, maybe a date in June.
Okay.
I guess you're on for the 11th and 25th.
Yes.
We're on for the 5th and the 19th. Probably do something in the evening or something where that's the only topic.
Well, could even,
Parliamentary training.
we could just
Yeah,
make it
be
one
around.
of our meetings, couldn't we?
You might, but
If we
there's some
don't.
people on council that think if they walk in here to a P and Z meeting, they'll
Well,
Okay.
So that was that thing.
What about having Randy Van Cleve come out and talk, and if we have the parliamentary, maybe not the parliamentary, but at a time to talk about this, so he could present it. Maybe it'd be more accepted if he was presenting why this would be a better way for us to
right.
do.
The other thing is, at that NMLZO, I did talk to David Campbell.
Ah,
Yeah. I'd sure like to have him come out and visit with you guys. You want to do that at one of your meetings?
Yes.
love to have him come.
Tell me again who he is, I forgot.
Well, right now, he's the planner for the city of Albuquerque.
Okay.
Used to be an attorney for Campbell Ranch, Hillcrest. He worked the other side of the table here.
Yeah. I
He's the
think,
guy that
yeah.
famously said, when you go into quasi judicial, you, physically speaking, put on the black robes, or metaphorically speaking, put on the black robes.
I may have met him during a hearing on Rory Road
Yeah.
way
Yeah,
back in the day.
I
I think
think-
that's the guy I'm thinking of.
He was out here on Campbell and that.
Yep.
Bush Crack,
Yep.
remember that. He's been in the foreign service the last 4, 5, 6, 8 years. He's back now, and so I ran into him down there, and
City of Albuquerque, right?
City of Albuquerque, he's their planner right now.
He knows land use law,
Yep.
He does.
forward and backward, from both
One of the
sides.
best trainings we ever went to was one with the lawyers that handle the clients that come in to see you guys.
Mhm.
They told them what they like to see, what they didn't like to see from you guys, how they like it done. They don't like any stop in the middle of things, and let's rewrite the ordinance, put the robes on, go with the ordinance, you guys
Right,
Yeah.
right,
love it or hate it, that's the one you go with.
right.
Yeah.
But I would like to schedule a time for him to come out here. So if you're on the 11th and 25th, 9th and 23rd, I can get a hold of him and see what's possible.
Okay.
You think he'd be helpful to us in this industrial zone that we're working on? It might have some ideas or something to,
He might, but,
You have to
Yeah.
pay him.
well,
Maybe.
More ideas and more ideas. I just heard you all say.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I meant, how to go about it, I guess, is what I'm talking about.
I said
Not
you
so
could
much
ask
the
him to
ordinance.
come
How,
out.
how do you go about it? Now we got the ordinance. Now what do we do with it? How do we?
He might have some
Implement it.
suggestions
Yeah.
on processing
City
applications.
planner, that means,
Right.
see, well, you might know something.
I'd
How
like
you-
to get it together either June or August. I'll be somewhere in July, either Boston or California or Portugal. We don't know yet.
Look at that. Wow,
So,
wow.
somewhere. So sooner, I guess I'd like to get to it soon and get to work on revising our procedure.
Yeah.
And I've got jury duty until, on Tuesdays, on our meeting,
Over.
on our meeting days, yeah, till July,
That's her third job she's got now.
yeah, July 9th. So I'm done July 9th. I think that's my last day.
Well, maybe a different
But-
night would be better.
Yeah, a different night in June is
Right.
fine.
Okay.
Just a long day.
Right now, I've got a plane ticket for the third week of July, but I don't know if I'm going to go on that trip. They keep bumping my itinerary around because they kept putting me on what are those things that porpoise in the air and then crash?
Oh, 737.
Yes, Southwest happens to own a large quantity of them. So I'm rethinking that trip.
Whether you're gonna, yeah, that's kind of scary.
But I could be around for the first week or two of July, too. But I'd like to get to it sooner, because then it'll be August and it'll be school again.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, be thinking about your script there, redoing that
Yeah.
somehow, and I'll see if I can get Randy to come out with some of that.
I should send you what I have, like what I'm currently using, that it's stuff that I was given that I've since modified a little bit and added to.
The thing
trying
I
to make
see
it
about
flow.
it would be, in this sheet here, we'd have to really stretch it out into a second sheet or something, because,
We had to struggle to get it on one
right,
page.
struggle to get
Yeah.
it on one page here. I think, most of this is still good, preliminary staff, applicant, proponent, opponent, final staff.
Yep,
It's like maybe wiggling it up here at the front so you delineate who's the parties, who's the
Yeah.
parties that are here. And, that way you can, well, write them down and make it a part of the record.
sure.
The applicant's one of the parties, and then we had 3 other people, even though we sent out 6 other notices, 3 of them came in.
Yeah,
And then that delineates who they are and what their standing was, and then if you get somebody else, they're just interested people.
Right.
yeah,
And I think then operationally, for running the meeting, you've got to be sure that those parties are allowed to cross-examine
mm-hmm.
at every step of the way, whoever gives testimony. That's what'll keep from getting you tripped up.
How does Albuquerque track who's a party to the thing and who isn't?
Well, they suggested, just a sign-up sheet
Okay,
that you could have maybe up the front here.
Yeah.
When the hearing starts.
different,
Have them come in.
right, because often everybody signs in as like in public comment.
If you
and we
look
wanna-
at this, you've got the applicant, proponents, and opponents. Some of your parties could be both.
Right.
Some could be proponents and some could be opponents.
Right,
What if you, on your sign-up sheet, you had a box that said whether you're opponent or proponent?
I don't know that I would do that, because let them surprise you. They don't
Okay.
need to commit one way or the other, they may just have something they want to say.
So maybe on an evening that we're having a hearing, we want to put out a separate sign-in and make it clear that, you know, that's,
I think I'd have it up here and ask them to come up.
yeah, that's for use of a specific group of people, not the general
You
public.
get back there, every time
True.
Harry walks in the door, will sign it.
Right.
Right, that's true.
That- yeah.
And Randy did talk about limitations on, you know, the people, the talking, and because it was repeating and, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes
Right,
it's,
That's up to the chair, you've got to really watch, if they're going to come with the same thing, you know, you got to tell them, look, if, you know,
yeah,
have you got anything new? Or if you're all just agreeing with that first and second person that came up
Right.
here, fine, we'll take your head count, but we want something new.
right.
We don't have nothing new, we'll just acknowledge you're here.
Right,
Right.
add you to the tally that supports that position.
Right.
Yeah.
Tanya, how many people do you typically notify for public hearings?
It just depends, like on the Bassett subdivision that we just did, when you did 500 feet, it stays right in the middle of there. So I just notified everybody around that whole area. So it just depends. And
You saying 15, 20?
oh, sometimes it's, I would say 30. Yeah, I would say it was easily 30 around the quarry.
Does anyone remember that Randy talked about the hearing that just went on forever, that it was well after midnight?
Yes.
When,
The
because,
three,
Oh, yeah.
one and one.
right, they were letting
Yeah.
everybody cross-examine, and
Yeah,
that's where he
Right.
said, you don't want to,
Yeah.
you've got to limit it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if, most of the time, it's not going to be an issue, but there's those odd times when it's
Right.
a controversy, and
Well, and in closing, then the applicant or the applicant's representative has a right to address those things that came up in cross-examination that,
Applicant, that's last.
yeah, and that can drag on if you have a lot of people.
Well, if they've heard a lot, they may have to comment on it.
Yeah.
You want to give them time to do it.
Yes, but what we've had here on occasion is then rebuttal,
Yeah.
and you don't want that.
yeah, you've got to cut it off at some point.
So it's on the neon sign, and is it also in the newspaper,
What's that?
a public hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's already,
Yellow
Yeah, you
signs
have to advertise
posted.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's in the newspaper, right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing for us to keep in mind is that as this is unfolding, we're not sitting watching two people trying to convince each other of the other person's position. We have a right to say, we've got the evidence we need, you know, and now we can close it.
Right.
The situations where you end up with rebuttal is where somebody's trying to convince somebody else.
That's where the gavel, you got to kind
Yeah.
of make it clear, okay, we're closing the
That's
public
right.
hearing now.
Yep,
And
Take it up here.
And I think that's why it's good, too, to let people know the order that you're going to be doing things, because people will try to talk out of turn, and, oh,
Yep.
I just remembered, and,
Yeah.
Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever, 3 minutes.
I think the applicant's got up to 15 minutes in here to start.
right.
And then about 5 at the end to wrap it up.
yeah, this last one went probably according to that pretty well.
Yeah.
But we haven't dealt with anything yet that was
Not a
super
real big thing.
contentious, yeah.
Well, there's some things the whole neighborhood may come in.
Or the
That's
whole
right.
town, you know.
That's what I mean, the whole
Right.
town.
Right.
And I mean, we've had some things like that come up in Edgewood, the whole town shows up, and so
Right, right.
you
Can
have
I
to make
also-
those comments pretty short.
Can I also suggest that when the roll call vote happens, if we could stick to an I and an A rather than a full sentence?
Right.
You know, I approve the, you know, it just makes the minutes a lot easier and it's
Okay.
more
Okay.
consistent. So just I or nay, if we could do that, that would be helpful.
You know, another thing with this order of doing things for the hearings, I think it's important, too, to let the staff have a bite of the apple late in, after all the testimony's been done, in the event that something comes up that was not covered
Well,
early on.
If you follow the if you follow the order that's in here,
It does.
staff should,
Mm-hmm,
final staff report.
right.
Right.
And staff can, because that's why you put them at the end. Hopefully, they've been taking notes and listening to everything. They may have some questions.
Right, and they give us their preliminary going into it.
Preliminaries up here, that sets the stage for it. And then the final, they get to ask any questions of anybody that's spoken. Of
Yep.
course, they can ask questions anytime, during the thing. And then they have to stand for cross-examination either by the applicant or one of the other parties at that final one.
Mhm.
And then they even shut up, and the applicant goes last, he gets last word. Then you wrap it shut and deliberate. In public,
Yep.
Yes, not,
not going to entertain them closed.
no.
Now, the deliberation, is that just among them, or can they still ask staff questions?
They might ask staff something for clarifying, but it should be by that time pretty much be with them.
Now, he did say there's are times we should go into closed sessions, now that you brought that up,
No, we
but I
don't,
forgot
no.
what the
No,
reason
no,
was.
no.
That should be really rare, and there's only, limited personnel matters, real estate deals,
Well, there was-
pending lawsuits.
Pending
There was
litigation.
something Randy brought up, though.
Yeah, it was employment.
No,
Well,
it's,
that
it's
wasn't,
called.
it wasn't for council meetings, it was things that P and Z would deal with.
No, it's called the Administrative Adjudicatory Procedure, and it is a very bad idea because it makes the public think we're doing things behind
Yeah,
closed
it's
doors.
best avoided.
Don't want to do that.
There is one thing that reminded me of, though.
He did say something, though.
It does fall to chair to wrap
Yeah.
everything up.
Mm-hmm,
Chair restates the final version of the motion, commences the roll call vote, hopefully just gets ayes or nays out of the commissioners. But the last one, the chair announces the result of the roll call vote and makes concluding remarks about the status of the application. It's been approved,
right,
it'll be back to findings of fact in 2 weeks. That's when you revise your order. then you
Okay.
review it. You gotta kind of wrap it up, put a bow on it. This is where it's at. We'll be back
Yeah.
in 2 weeks.
I don't think we've ever highlighted the appeals process
Right.
that's available to the applicant either.
Yeah.
Well, if the applicant's the only one shows up in here.
Yeah.
it's not likely to-
There's- right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just something you gotta try to,
But there have been some we've said no to and did not highlight,
Right.
that you have the opportunity to appeal.
that's why it's concluding remarks.
Yeah.
Kind of leave them
I'll have to look it
knowing
up.
what the next step is if
Yeah.
they take it.
It would be rare, but there was a certain situation where it was, especially if it was real complicated.
Anything else? What is that document you're holding, Mr. Mayor? I think I have shreds of it, but not the whole thing.
It's reference guide?
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought everybody that joined
We,
got one.
we don't have
I
one.
don't, I don't think I have the full reference guide.
No, I think I have pieces of it that I'm using.
What's the title?
Reference guide for commissioners,
Well, maybe we could scan it and get it to us, because we don't have it.
you know?
I have the Word document somewhere. In my files.
And then get yours to go with it and
Yeah,
take a look at that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I have like a page or two out of that that addresses like the,
I have that too.
everything
Put
you,
an item on your next meeting for discussion.
okay,
And we'll try to have each
The reference
copy
guide.
of it by then,
Right.
so you can
Tanya, I'll forward that to you.
Okay.
But it's been through several revisions, so, but, I do want to say, Commissioner Huppert's brought up the administrative adjudicatory procedure, that Randy Van Vleck really likes that. I've heard him argue for it in the past. The problem with doing that is that state law does allow us to do our deliberations in private. You do have to take the vote, though, in open session.
Right.
The problem with doing that is that it's a little bit, the law that allows you to do that kind of conflicts with the Open Meetings Act. And that's the kind of thing that gets hashed out in court, okay? You end up going, it's bad optics for the public. The only time, Planning and zoning commissions have, I think on like 3 occasions that I know of, have done this. Mayor, were you on commission? Yes, yeah. There was one previous, I think when the Walmart, Tierra West was coming in, they had a closed session then. There was one in 2009. And then probably 2013, the commission tried doing the administrative adjudicatory procedure. Yeah, and what happened is they ended up going behind closed doors for like an hour and a half. And it's really a bad thing. And I can tell you that the only thing that is compliant with the Open Meetings Act that P&Z would possibly do is if a really hairy legal question were to arise during the hearing, that you might want to go and talk with your legal counsel about the legal ramifications of what's going on. But as far as doing the actual deliberations, yes, state law does allow for it, but the public, this doesn't look good to the public. It looks like we don't know what we're doing or don't want to,
Well, you could get in a situation, like you say, where it's legal stuff's going on and we don't quite understand and we need, we can't make a decision yet. The bad thing he said was to table it because then people can start approaching you all week.
Right.
And he felt like closed session was better than doing that, than tabling it. Because then you might be getting phone calls at your house and trying to influence you one way or the other.
Really, the thing on closed
So-
sessions is litigation, personnel, and possible transactions.
Yep.
You guys don't.
we just don't do it.
Right, that's right. And, the more we talk about it, it reminds me of what goes on in magistrate court. Every time I'm given jury duty in Santa Fe, I go up, spend the morning sitting there, the legal people go into a back room, and they come out and say, everything got resolved, you can all
Yeah.
leave.
You're right.
Yes.
It's like, that's where it's commonly used, and it's not something that we probably have to do. But what we have to be careful of, when you're having your deliberation here, and this has happened to us before, it's very easy to get pulled into making suggestions and recommendations to the applicant because we're all sitting here together.
Right.
And that's something we really need to work on avoiding.
You got to be careful of that. Look, just, for example, the conditional use permit.
Yeah.
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 I mean, the closed door helps to put a barrier there to prevent that, but it's a bad trade-off because it's just bad business to be behind closed doors. But then we're going to have to be more, have a better poker face.
Yeah.
Be more
Out here.
judicial.
Well,
Right.
and the applicant, if you were to deny something, that's what happened in 13, they need to hear from you why you denied it.
Right.
You owe them that much.
Well, and we've done that.
Yeah.
But I think we've also fallen into trying to find,
A solution.
a solution.
Yeah.
The other thing, people were wondering, well, so table the thing, like Cheryl says, then you run into the thing, then you got like 2 weeks and people can dog you.
Right.
That's a good point, Cheryl.
That's what he said.
The other thing is, you want to get it done, so they don't do that.
Yeah.
But you've got to remind people, the applicants and that, they can withdraw. If they come in here, they'll turn the threshold. If it ain't ready, it ain't ready.
Yeah.
Always offer them the opportunity to withdraw.
And bring it forward some other time,
Right.
yeah.
And even if you deny it,
They can
it's not the end
come,
of the world. They can turn around and come back in a month later, but they know what y'all found wrong with it.
Right.
Maybe they'll fix it.
Good point.
Come back second time.
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember
People
Randy
always
saying.
treat these like it's the end of the world. It's not.
Right.
so that might be
You don't get
something
the
that,
answer you want,
we need to
but
say
you do hear what the
when we
problem
deny.
is.
You may fix the problem.
Come back in.
Yep.
There
Okay.
is no limit on how many times they can come in here. But if you get into a sticky one,
it's better
it
to
doesn't
do.
look like it's gonna happen. You always want to offer them that, you can withdraw here tonight, go home,
Mm-hmm.
no harm, no foul.
So maybe, so
Right.
that might get us out of having to make a decision.
Right.
Right.
Randy did go over that, he said, come back with, we need this.
Right.
This is why we're, denying, or postponing
You'll
it.
occasionally get one that insists against all good judgment. I have a decision, I'm going to give them a decision, and they
Right.
may be no.
Right.
That's not the end of the world.
They
Right.
got 30 days to come back.
Right, and I wanted to repeat what the mayor just said. The applicant deserves to know why they're being turned down.
Yeah,
And conversely, if you're approving something and there's a lot of community opposition, they also deserve to know. And if you retire into the back room to make your deliberations, they lose all that. All they see is you come out, motion, second, and the vote. And
Well, you should tell them why you approve or you deny, really.
right.
And if they met the ordinances, then you have to approve it.
right,
And if people don't see the process,
they think
not
the worst.
everybody, but some are going to come up with the worst possible story in their heads
Right.
of what took place in that room. So I would definitely avoid that like the plague.
We had, I had commissioners in Bernalillo, we had one, Georgina Chavez, I'll never forget. Anytime there was something that she didn't like and somebody, and it looked like it wasn't gonna go her way, then she always wanted to go into closed session. And it wasn't good. I mean, it never was good, but alls it was, you could hear them. Alls it was a big screaming match behind.
She's trying to convince everybody to go her way.
Yeah, she wanted it her way, damn it, and that,
Yeah.
you know, it does just,
Well, when I was on council, the walls were relatively thin in the community center as well. The mayor can attest to that. He was at most of them to the ripe hour of 1:15 or whatever.
You had to have some public there.
Yeah.
Right.
When I said most of them, I meant to say he was at all of them.
I can't remember. Did you hear this one?
All right, anything else on this? Let's tackle this revising that reference guide
okay.
and incorporate
Well,
some of what
and
Albuquerque
you guys,
does.
When you had one, like you had, I guess, a couple of them here at your last one, do a recap at the next meeting. How'd you like how it went?
Hmm.
And go all right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I had to sit out the first one.
You know, we got,
All they do is read the minutes.
commission members. If you don't like how something went at that previous meeting, bring it up here. Say, well,
Okay.
during that last one, I didn't like how this went. That's where this thing came from, is get ideas of how the best way to attack stuff, put it down, put it in writing, put it
Mhm.
here.
Okay.
By the way, nobody signed up for public comment.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
This agenda must not have looked like that much fun.
No.
Nothing.
Now, if we had something on here like weeds,
Yeah, that, we know that
There would
we'd have
be a
at least one
packed
person
house.
show up. We're fixing to, actually.
We're taking over everybody's yard.
I've got weeds.
anything else, or should we move on?
Yes.
We got some work to do from that one. Public comment, we got nothing. Number 9, matters from the chair and commission members. Commissioners, do you have anything tonight? Any news or updates?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to thank the town for sending us to the NMLZO conference. It was very
Yes.
helpful.
Glad you guys went.
Sorry I missed it.
Yeah,
Sounds
it
like
was
a
a
good
good one.
one.
So,
Good.
the fall, Silver City.
Okay,
Well, that'd be fun. I'll have to
Yeah.
save my vacation for that one.
I can do that.
Yeah. I haven't seen the agenda yet, but
It would
You know,
be,
the,
they're
um,
always good.
yeah.
The legislature has passed a new regulation. It doesn't take effect until 2020, but basically it hamstrings what substitute teachers can do while they're hunting for more substitute teachers. I have to pay into the pension an amount that will never come to me as a pension. It's just free money to the state fund. If I work any more than 1/4 time, and APS's minimum requirement is that I work at least 3 days a week. So,
Not important that the teacher that takes off and has to have a substitute, has to pay some substitute
Yeah.
wages.
yep,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
was
in an
reading
awkward
about
spot, so, not this September, but the September after, I'm going to start practicing this coming year. I'm going to study real hard how much I can afford to not work in the classroom.
You're gaining too much.
I don't really need to, I enjoy it, but, I'm not going to be knocking myself out to help the state get a better rating from Moody.
Yeah.
A decent date for that parliamentary rules.
Oh.
Well, you know, it matters
Mhm.
from commission members.
So our next meeting on the 28th is when we're going to have the vote to recommend the comp plan action strategies.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Maida will be
To town
here.
council. Yeah, Maida will be
Yeah.
here. So I think you guys are going to get what we worked on at the last workshop, to look over anything that is glaring, so we can not deliberate over it for very long during that meeting. But, so we do have that on the 28th, but how about June for the? It really, I think these guys are a lot more flexible than some of your group. So what are you thinking? You want to do it on a town council night or?
It needs to be a joint session and probably be better away from any other topic.
Right.
And apparently what works for best for them is like a Friday evening, about 6:30.
That's fine.
Yeah, I can make that
I
work.
can do that.
I'm
Good
fine,
deal.
whatever.
So if we met on the 5th and 19th, let's see, there's something going, no, the 14th. 14th, any good?
14th is fine, for me.
June 14th.
It's fine with me. I don't have anything.
Let me check real quick, but I don't think I have any kind of conflict.
What time do you usually do these special meetings?
Probably 6:30.
6:30.
So June 14th, that's Flag Day.
I mean, if it's good for council, you can bring it up.
I did have one matter from council or from commissioners, whenever we're ready for it. Do you guys have other stuff?
I was just going to say, if possibly we could get Steve, and if Glenn wants one of these binders, I mean, it really is put together very well.
That's all the slides and everything?
Yeah. mhm.
Yeah, I would
We could
like
get them
that.
a
And I've
copy.
got notes, you know, but.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I was in Laughlin, and it was awful.
I was thinking next meeting, we should go over everything you're going to present to council, just so it's kind of fresh in our brains, in case we guess what the meeting, if there's something we want to comment on to support you,
Okay.
we can remember it, because sometimes time passes and I can, like, what did we decide? You know,
Yeah.
Just going to go
Yeah.
back over, kind of review it.
Right. And let us know when the council's going to hear it, because I think as many of us who can be at the meeting
Right,
should be
Yes.
there.
okay.
I say, but sometimes I can't,
And you're shooting for when, June?
Second meeting in June,
which
June.
would be, what?
the 19th.
You guys
June
recommend
19th.
date?
If we vote on it next meeting, it'll be,
Oh, Russ?
yeah,
19th.
yeah.
June 19th? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so this is a picture I took of the trail that was developed by, I believe, the Boy Scouts a few years ago,
Yeah,
that goes between,
Yeah.
this is the 344 section between Square H Road and Hill Ranch. And because we've had the wettest winter on record for about 20 years, the kochia has really taken seed there. And this stuff grows to be an average roughly 6 feet high. It's one of two varieties of tumbleweed. Russian thistle and kochia are the two tumbleweeds. So,
So we spoke to Joe about
Yeah.
it today, so he is aware, and I believe it is going to get mowed.
okay, this isn't a complaint. The reason I bring it up is it got me wondering, as we build recreational assets, what is the plan to maintain
Right.
the recreational assets? That there are also, there's one place on this trail where I probably would have put a water bar, not a check dam, but, you know, something to redirect water. It's where it goes down by I think it's as it reaches the corner of Lacey, there's a eroded spot, and then down by Hill Ranch as well. So, it's going to erode, and it's going to grow weeds. So fixing it when it's a mess is one thing, but I wondered, does Recreation have like a plan to do these things periodically, or is it reactive, like when something's
Well,
not
that
looking
was
good, you
brought
go
up
fix it?
at a meeting that Roger had, it was I think a regional trail meeting or something like that. And the COG was there, and that question actually came up because they want that big trail connection. And a girl from Zia Pueblo said, what is the plan to maintain? She said, it's one thing to make the trail, but
Right.
if nobody's maintaining it, then what's the use of
Yeah.
it? So that's a really good question. I mean,
Well, and this has weed block under it, but what it's doing is it's pea gravel and it's seeding from on top.
Yeah.
Now the pea gravel has retained dirt that blows onto it. It's perfectly fertile, nice, wet soil, and the weeds love it.
Invite them to bring a hoe and they can hoe as they go.
Yeah,
Gonna get into the plastic.
yeah. I'll see if I can strap one to my waist as I walk.
Take a side.
I just thought I would bring it up because
That's
we
a
are
good
talking in
point.
the comprehensive plan about trail connectivity and a trail master plan, and you could end up with miles and miles of trails all over town that become this.
because they want it to be equestrian friendly, so it has to be gravel and.
Well, and this will be equestrian friendly.
Yeah,
I'm sure
but when
horses
it's-
don't mind.
When it is equestrian friendly,
Pochita.
it has the chance of getting a lot more weedy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if horses were on it more, though, it'd probably plow those weeds down, and I don't.
No, I don't think that would take care of it. They're on it. I see their hoof prints every time I walk there. There's,
People use it.
yeah, it may be 1 or 2 or 3 horses, and it's not that frequent. But the horses don't mind being like,
Got to adopt the trail, we got to adopt the road.
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I guess I would also ask the Recreation Committee what kind of approach they recommend. I mean, I'm not a big fan of spraying Roundup everywhere. There are other things that can be done.
There are natural.
Yeah, and they're the experts in that. So what would they recommend we do before we build miles and miles of stuff that's
Right.
hard to maintain? I just wanted to kind of flag it, so it's
Yeah.
something they're thinking about.
That's a good point.
There's 2 pictures, and they're both about the same.
And everybody tells me they want a swimming pool.
Here's the other one.
Just so you know.
Yeah, it was quite a year for snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still better than mud.
This is true.
Does the
Yep.
town have like a tractor and then a, drag behind it to just cut,
Bush hog or?
I guess is that what it's called?
Okay.
Not necessarily a mower, but, oh, okay.
I mean, the other thing that came to mind when I walked here on Saturday, when this stuff gets tall, it really is a snake danger. That, I
Yes.
encounter bull snakes out here all the time. I've encountered my first rattlesnake, that was last year, and it was a youngster that can be particularly dangerous. Youngsters are fully venomous and have no idea how to withhold venom,
Yeah.
where adults do. The worst thing to get bitten by is a baby rattlesnake.
You can hoe, you can weed.
This is true.
The rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Slaughter snakes as I go.
We'll provide, yeah.
I gotta tell you a funny story just for fun. My husband, we had one of those little baby rattlesnakes by a car. For some reason, he reached just down to flip it out of the way. I got bit.
Got bit.
Yeah,
Was he okay?
yeah, he had to get the anti-venom.
Yeah.
He's in the
Oh,
hospital.
my
Still couldn't
gosh.
believe, yeah, we had to go to the hospital.
The young
I couldn't
ones are the
believe he
scary
did that. I
ones.
was like, what in the world, yeah.
And then
that's what I
people go,
said.
well, there's a nest nearby, so you should do that. Actually, rattlesnakes are, they disperse. I mean, they have their
Okay.
babies and everybody runs away. And people say, well, you shouldn't kill them because they eat rodents. Yeah, about 1 every 3 weeks. So now your property, your acre has, instead of 68 mice, you have,
Bunch of
67.
Both snakes eat rodents, too.
They do.
Isn't it,
I love
isn't
my
it
bull
every
snake.
5 years? Don't they have a cycle? like
A breeding
four-
cycle?
to where it's, it's like every 4 or 5 years. There's more rattlesnakes than,
Well, and what you're going to see with a year like this, that we have so much vegetation because we had so much moisture, that equals more rodents,
right.
and more rodents equals more snakes.
And then they,
So-
they're
Yeah.
coming out, they smell.
They don't breed all that much either. Rattlesnakes only breed every couple of years when conditions are right.
Yeah.
But I did look at it and thought, boy, when
you
this
see
stuff
this
is
a
4
lot?
feet high, I don't think I want to be sticking my ankles in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Be diverted.
that's it.
Okay.
I just thought I'd bring it up. Because we are talking trails like crazy in that comprehensive
Yes, we
plan.
are.
Yep.
Anything else, you guys? Matters from commissioners? Otherwise, we are at calendar update, and we did some of that.
Could we do matters from staff?
You skip matters from
Oh, yeah,
staff.
matters from staff, sorry.
What he meant to say.
Yes, matters from staff.
So I already told you that we're talking about the comp plan, to recommend it to town council on the 28th. Don't forget about May 31st for the commissioners' training
Mhm.
at the COG. That's all I had.
Got an
Okay.
email from Maida.
And just a thank you for filling in some of the potholes and that cover by where the driveway Cactus, it's right in front of Cactus and the driveway by Walmart. That got taken care of.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's better. Yeah.
Good deal. All right.
Did we cover calendar update, or are there other things to put on? We're good?
Yeah, I'll update that on the next agenda for everything that we talked about tonight.
And is Church Road still on the schedule for July?
Church
Um,
Road.
Paving.
Church Road paving?
Resurfacing?
Oh, for July? I'm not sure what.
Because Carla had mentioned that,
Yes, it's not that
July.
close.
Yeah.
She's got to drive it every day.
Well, not anymore every day, but it's, yeah.
There's more capital outlay coming for it. It's still being in the planning stage.
I mean, they're taking good care of it, especially with all this rain and everything.
Mhm.
I usually use Tony's Road, Maple Road, bypass when it gets really bad. Yeah. Just checking.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Then that will take us to item 12 and a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.